Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Kaga, and I've unlocked myself a new toy in War Thunder. This is the Kikka, or more properly the Kikka. So this aircraft is quite ironically named. That's for orange blossom. Funny, I don't see one little bit of orange on this aircraft. No matter how much I look, other than the distinctive afterburning effects that the engines produce, not a whole lot of orange, and even then I will tell you that they don't actually look like orange blossoms, or any citrus blossoms for that matter. But that's another thing coming. So this aircraft has quite the reputation for being stellarly shit for when you first get it, and it being okay when you actually get it fully upgraded. So let's talk a little bit about this aircraft. So outwardly you look at this and go, it looks awfully a lot like an ME-262 of some description. And well, it does actually. Just for a little quick comparison here, I don't actually have the 262 yet. I'm working towards it. It does look a bit like it, right? No swept wings, engines are a little bit more funky, but the outward appearance is about all we can really say about it. It only has, at least when you get it stock, it's got these really lackluster, about 4.5 kilonewton thrust engines. It's only got a single, that's right, a single 30mm cannon in the nose. And it's got some lackluster speeds associated with it. I mean, 750 kilometers per hour, nothing really to write home about it. 6.7. There are some propeller aircraft that can basically dive on this thing when it's straight and level, even at top speed, and just nuke it to nothing. Unless this thing's been, going off in a straight line for about half a minute or more, and it built up enough speed to actually maintain this stated 750 kilometers per hour. But what makes this thing interesting? Well, and I have to go back to, this aircraft was originally designed to be that low altitude hit and run type aircraft. You go in, you hit your ground target, you get out of dodge. And that kind of meshes pretty well with the fact that this was designed, if you look really carefully right here on the model. I'm surprised War Thunder actually modeled this. Good job, Gaijin. If you see right here and right here on the exterior surfaces towards the exterior surfaces of the engine cowlings, you see where the wings are supposed to actually fold up, because it would actually fold up like here and here, so that the Kikka, or the Kikka, could be more easily stowed in like railroad tunnels, caves, and other places like that were more impervious towards the B-29 bombing raids that were plaguing Japanese cities and airfields and places of industry in the late 1944 going into mid-1945. I really got to hand it to them. And it makes sense, right? They're preparing for the invasion, their presumed invasion of the Japanese home islands. They're stockpiling all kinds of goodies in the main islands to help aid in fending off the Americans, and this was going to be one of them. Well, war never allowed it to happen, and only 10 of these were built. I think only 2 of them were operational. So let's talk a little bit about that, and remember that whole, it's supposed to be a ground attack fighter. So when you first get it, you have some choices to make, because you've got one cannon. Your secondary weapons, right out of the box, include a 500 kilogram bomb. That is a lot of explosives. And your typical 30mm Japanese ammo belts. It's the same one you had on the J7W1 that you use to unlock the Kikka, so you should be quite familiar with this. The only difference is that you got one shot to hit every so often rather than 4. So, and that's one of the big things about this, is that when you first get this aircraft, it's ironic that your bombs are actually the primary way that you're going to get experience in this aircraft, because you just don't have the ammo capacity to really affect that change. And right here, ammunition capacity of your 30mm, 50. Not a lot there. So that's why I'm going with, unless I'm on very specific maps where it's not conducive to bringing the 500 kilogram bomb. One of these is the Saipan mission, and the Wake Island ones come to mind, where it's just not conducive to carry the bomb load right off the bat. At least when you're talking about fighters, right? It's just not conducive to it. But on most other maps, I will always pick up the bomb, which is why the research path I'm going for on this one is very simple, and it alleviates a bunch of my woes with this thing. First thing I'm going for is this 14-inch Mod 41 bomb, which grants access to these glorious 800 kilogram bombs, which are so important because if you look at the radius of destruction, 9 meters, that's a fair bit, but it's not a lot. But if I go here and it goes to 16 meters, that's about 180% increase there. I like that. I like that a lot. That means that I can take with this single bomb, can affect more ground targets, that gets me more experience, and more experience is good in this thing because we want to move up faster. So, I'm gonna go ahead, and we get a choice of 2 bombs. You get the armor-piercing bomb, which, can do a fair bit of damage to a very small area, and it's one of those great things for taking out, like, pillboxes. Or you can just go with the area of effect bomb and just nuke everything that doesn't have a whole lot of armor, or screw up everything that has a fair bit of armor within that radius. This is good. And it's not that different than this 500 kilogram semi-armor piercing bomb that you start off with, which, is kind of funny. This semi-armor piercing bomb, it's a very interesting bomb. And I say that because I was playing around with the, you take it up for the test flights, and had this equipped right after I got it, just playing around with it, and I could get this thing to skip on the water. Because you know how when you take these planes out, and you get them into their nation-specific training areas. The one for the Japanese is in middle of the Pacific. And you start off on this island, and there's a bunch of ships nearby, and all kinds of goodness that you can do all kinds of scenarios with. One of the things I did was I got so incredibly, I dare say I was bored, but, in a good kind of way, was flying low level to the deck, release the bomb, and just watch this thing skip before finally just settling down and then detonating. Kind of interesting, actually. Wish I'd captured that one and could show it to you all, because it's kind of funny. Anyway, my absolute minimum research path that I would recommend to anyone when they first get their Kikka is start off with this 14-inch bomb. The next one is the engine. These engines are a tad bit anemic on the best of days. This aircraft has very little in the way of vertical motion. It's almost like a jet equivalent of a Zero in that respect. It's all in the lateral, in the horizontal space you want to work with. You can strategically use vertical motions, but you're never going to beat like American P-80s or F-80s that are doing that. So I would never recommend relying on it out of the box, but at least in that respect. But having the engine gives you that extra 13 kilometers per hour and a little bit more rate of climb. Both of these are going to be so imperative when you equip this 14-inch bomb. So important to have this extra thrust, because there are plenty of times, even with this 500 kilogram bomb, that I struggled to get this thing off the runway. It is just... ugh. It is hard sometimes to maneuver this thing with the bombs on it. At least get it up in the air, and it just takes forever. And I gotta say, I love the fact that they included the Kikka. But the fact it uses the NE20, that is NE-20, or NE20 if you want to go super rigid on how you pronounce it. And the fact it uses those specific engines really hurts this plane. There was a design specification that was to use what was called the NE-20 Kai type engines, which boasted about 30% more engine thrust, and that would be kind of an interesting, like, Kikka Kai variant that could easily kick this thing an alternative version of this up to 7.0. But, you know, that's kind of speculative. Kind of like, well, I kind of hope they would do it. It'd be like saying, Gaijin, can we get the key 201 included in the game too, is in addition to that, you know, just kind of put it like 7.3. All the good stuff, right? But anyway, back to where to go from the engine. It's obvious where to go from after you get this engine upgrade. You get this Otsu modification, because if you come over here, the requirement for Second Canyon is installation of Otsu modification. Trust me, 2 cannons is important. Each gun only has 50 rounds. You go from having 50 rounds to having 100 rounds to deal with your adversaries, whether ground targets or air targets. That's just twice as many chances to knock them out of the sky in a same given amount of engagement window. The key to this aircraft is literally good trigger control. If you do not, and I repeat, if you do not have good trigger control, you are going to hate every last second of this on your way to the top-of-the-line Saber that comes after this aircraft. You are going to hate this aircraft with a livid passion. After this, I would recommend... let's see, you could probably go for either the wing repair or the fuselage repair. Both work fairly well after this Otsu modification. And then from there, I would probably jump for the cover upgrade, jump back down for the airframe, because if you see the empty mass there is 37 versus about 45, and this one will make much greater impact on flight performance, more so than the airframe replacement modifications here. So those are just while they're quality of life things, they're very important once you actually get the ability to dish out some punishment to enemy aircraft. As such, they're more important than this offensive 30mm ammunition and the new 30mm cannons. And if you've gone through the Shinden or the J7W1, you'll know that this default ammunition is plenty lethal. And you're probably perfectly fine leaving that in there for a while. Okay, just some things to know about before you go into battle. First off, is that all of because when it's stock, the cannon modification only is on the one side, you're going to have to be mindful that you're going to have a left side tendency for range, for targets within 600 meters, or that's the distance I have my cannon set to, or whatever your convergence distance is, and outside of that it's going to have a rightward tendency. Now, when you actually get the Otsu modification and this plate here suddenly becomes a cannon, it's not going to matter so much, but you're going to really want to be mindful of that when you're grinding towards the ultimate modification, that you're going to have this, for lack of better description, a parallax issue when you're dealing with aerial targets, and you will often find that it's easier to engage opponents. So if I say, like, if there's an aircraft, you're going to find it easier to deal with them coming from this direction, from your left-hand side, traversing towards your right, just because of this discrepancy. Now, that is not to say that you're going to have a lot of problems if you're coming from the opposite case, where they're going from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, but you're going to need to correct a little bit more for it, rather than in this one, it's just kind of more built into the shot. Whereas this one, you're probably going to have to give a little bit more left-hand lead on these traversing targets from the right. Just a minor thing. Other things to note. These engines are incredibly fragile. Incredibly fragile. Boom and zoom is the order of the day if you have to engage bombers. It can do fairly well. Your usual 262 roller coaster tactic works quite well with this. It's a little bit sluggish on the roll as a result. It bleeds speed a little bit faster, so while you can be tempted to take very nice shots with your cannon, I really don't recommend that you do it too much longer than your 262, because this aircraft is fragile, just like the rest of the Japanese planes, and it's a very quick way to either get blown up or to have your engine sputter out, either one or both, because enemy bombers, they're bristling with guns and they will shoot anything and everything. And as you can see, if they so much as hit any part of these cowlings with like a high explosive fragmentation round, well, your engine just went orange. Now, things to be mindful of are the fact that the oil cooling systems are pretty much easily shot from any angle. There really is no way that you can get around it. Other thing to be mindful of when you're contemplating engaging enemy bombers, or you're contemplating going ahead on. So, you're trying to present this to the enemy. That's a fuel tank. It's a great recipe for a fire if something penetrates it. Or you'll be leaking fuel all the way back home. And this thing only has about 27 minutes of fuel max. Granted, there is some decent armor here, 12 millimeters. It's not a lot. Especially when you get nice up close and personal, and you get those 20 millimeter shots like right passing through here. It'll go through here pretty much at any weird angle. Puncture the fuel tank, it may even kill the pilot. Another thing to be mindful of is this is only 50 millimeters of bulletproof glass. It can easily be penetrated. And you have similar 12 millimeters of armor around the other fuel tank, which is okay from this perspective, but when people are diving on you, this area is completely exposed, and you will probably take a hit to the fuel tank. So, without further ado, let's just jump into a quick test flight, and I will show you more or less some of the things that need to happen in order for you to get used to this thing. As this thing's a bit of a learning curve, especially since you're probably more used to flying propeller-driven aircraft, and, well, things are a little different here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is not one of those aircraft that you can get away with just taking off without your flaps down. You need your flaps down, especially when you have the bomb equipped, and you're about to see why. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hit my brake command here so that I can spool up these engines. It's very important when you get used to jet aircraft that you really do give it a chance to reach full power. And you'll hear a characteristic hiss in there when your particular turbines are ready. When you're confident of that, go ahead, let it go. And you know, it's one of those little things that I noticed about the Kikka. It's one of those aircraft that the elevators, if you look at it, just start fluttering in the breeze as we go by. And, you know, I've seen that on some other aircraft, but none so disturbed me as much as this one did, you know? Look how much of this runway we've already used up. And there we go. We just got enough to get the nose gear off. Come on, Kikka. Come on, you can do it. You could do it. Oof. Close. 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 Oh, dear. God, that was close. So, remember how it had something like 16.8 meters per second rate of climb? Yeah, this bomb, and it's not the largest bomb this thing can carry. This is only the 500 kilogram semi-armor piercing bomb. Saps away about, you know, half that. Ooh, hey, it's a Shokaku class carrier. And that looks like a Myoko class cruiser. Hey, worth under naval forces. Come on, got here sooner. Having enough time trying to dislike the non-choice choices in World of Warships already. Okay, so we're kind of at more or less a semi-cruising altitude for the Kikka. I know it's kind of low, but when you have the bomb equipped, your primary mission is literally low, fast hit, and then get out and repeat, especially when you're stock. This thing is quite nice at this whole get in, hit your ground target, and then get out of dodge. Now, hey, you know, and that's one of the weird things about this is that I remember when I first got this thing and it was like, meh. You know, I've had, you know, I think 27 or so games in this thing, almost 30. And it shows you how low some of the experience gains are because you can't really gun anything down. I think I've killed a few players, but done more of this than I have much of anything else. And it says something is that it's taken that long to get here, and I've kind of come to appreciate this plane a little bit and its characteristics, and wow, that was a damn nice hit. As you can see, I think I've gotten a little too used to doing this whole bombing thing. And, oh hell, why not? Since we have the time, and I feel like showing you guys how this thing lands too, because this thing is a little different than the rest of the Japanese aircraft to this point, and it's not like some of the other nicer aircraft where you can use air brakes. So, remember earlier in the video I was saying you can skip bombs? Yeah, we're gonna have a little fun moment right now. Come down here, right altitude. 3, 2, 1, up. Hey! It did skip, like 3 times. About 200 meters on that. So, you know, you can do some pretty fun things in here if you don't feel like taking things seriously. So, then on the quick thing, we're going to come up here, put this thing into a shallow dive, come in for a long final, and I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a long final. Well, it needs to be long for a few reasons. Because this is test mode and it said, and I forgot to turn off the aerial rearmament feature because I was playing around in here and didn't want to keep doing the whole you need to land to rearm and to keep practicing, because this thing's a little limited in terms of its engagement distance and engagement times. I turned that feature on and said nope, no shits given. No dice. Because as you can see, and you're about to see, that landing can be a bit of a process in this thing. Like the ME-262, for which this thing was inspired from, it takes a fair bit of work to land this thing. Bit of straightaways, you're gonna have to be very creative on short runways here. You're gonna have to bleed the speed way down. And even this might be a little too fast. And I do mean too fast. God. Ah. That bomb. That bomb. Oh wait, no. Looks like we're gonna get it. Woo! Okay, nose gear. On the ground, nose gear. There we go. That wasn't a half bad landing. Alright. So, that's enough of the very basic introduction to the Kikka. Later on, either later today or sometime tomorrow, I should have some gameplay for you all, rather than just some talking in the hangar and other goodness for you. So, without further ado, thank you, and have a good day.